All right, before we get started with questions, I want to ask you just kind of an opening question about your kickball tournament that is happening next week, and just give us a couple inside, maybe some insider details, but also maybe give us some perspective on what it takes to plan an event. I'm sure there's been more than maybe you would have thought in the beginning.
Yeah, times about 1,000. And, you know, I've always been kind of an idea guy, not so much like the execution guy. So just having Leanne, who most of y'all know, she crosses all my T's and dots all the I's. So she's been doing a lot of the legwork in the trenches, as well as the guy who heads up the Kannapolis YMCA, Phil Benefield. So if it wasn't for them, it wouldn't have happened. But the idea kind of started, I've always wanted to do some sort of charity, fundraiser. Everybody does, golf tournament, stuff like that, which is always a good time. But I kind of got the idea from Austin Dillon's 3-on-3 tournament he did up there a couple years ago. So I kind of used the format for that. We didn't do bracket style. We did pool play, which actually works out better because every team gets to play 3 games at least. And I just hit the ground and tried to sell some teams and round up some guys to play. And it turned into a much bigger event than I anticipated. And it's going to be really fun to see everybody out there hanging out and to see NASCAR Productions and NASCAR Digital to show up and start streaming it. And there's be on their Facebook and YouTube page. So it really is a group effort. And it's really cool to see everybody kind of come together and help me pull the weight of this thing.
All right. Well, we wish you the best of luck with that event. And now we're going to go to questions. To kick us off, we're going to go to Bob Pockris. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, Corey, I wanted to ask you about Talladega. How many drivers in the playoffs have come to you and say, you better help push me? And when you're trying to decide who to push, who not to push, does whether they're in the playoffs or not make any difference?
Not really. It's always, you want to stay fairly well committed to your OEM partners. Obviously we're a Chevy team. So, probably a little bit more loyal to the Hendrick cars in particular, since we run their engines. So, you're certainly you try to stay aware of the point situation and who's in what, especially with, kind of our pseudo teammates of Hendrick and Ganassi, which obviously Ganassi's not in the playoffs anymore. So you can kind of be aggressive, and really and truly, I think there's only 3 guys, that are on the outside looking in. You can point to Harvick, you can point to Keselowski. Obviously, he's above the cut line, but guys are going to be on the verge. Like, those guys are almost looking at this like a must win. So you're definitely aware of everybody's situation, and I think I don't know. I see some people being aggressive for stage points, but it'll be pretty calm for 495 miles. And the last little bit's going to get pretty crazy.
And did this package draft any differently at Daytona with the reduced horsepower and no wicker?
Yeah, your close-up speed was a little bit less. Anytime you take horsepower away, it takes that disparity. It took a little bit of handling away. Usually in the July race or the second race at Daytona, handling comes into effect a little bit, but it being that you're going 7 or 8 miles an hour slower, the handling didn't come to an effect. And if it doesn't come to effect at Bristol, then it's or Daytona, it's not going to be remotely an issue at Talladega. So you just trim your car out as much as possible, and hopefully it's fast enough to make the right chest moves when it's time to go.
Okay, our next question is going to come from Dustin Long. Go ahead, Dustin.
Thank you. Hey, Corey, can you give me a sense? You kind of had to go through at this time of the year. I know you don't have to worry about it for next year. Is just kind of trying to figure out what your future is going to be, and kind of look. There's a lot of focus on the track, on the playoff drivers or things that are happening on the track, but there's so many different things going on off the track. Can you kind of give me a sense of what it's been like, or what you've experienced in the past, and what maybe others are going through at this point, when so much of the sport's focused on Talladega or the playoffs right now?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, every year up until this one, it was always uncertainty. A lot of times my deals didn't get done until late December, early January. And just when all the dominoes stopped, you were hoping, or just when the music stopped, you hoped that you had a seat that you were holding on to. So it's a really kind of a weird spot for me to be in, knowing where I'm going to be for at least next year and possibly several years after that. I enjoy going to the racetrack with Spire, and we're consistently, getting better incrementally, not in huge doses, but we are getting better and seeing gains. And hopefully if the next gen car does what is intended to do, it should close the gap from the guys that are, a couple steps ahead in terms of development. So, I'm excited about that. And, I'm fairly well buddies with Matt DiBenedetto, and obviously he has a lot of uncertainty in his life. And, it's the pin tweet on my Twitter page. It's like, you can plan your steps, but I mean, really and truly, the Lord is the one that's going to tell you what's going to happen and what doors are going to open and which ones are going to shut. So Matt obviously is starting to build his faith a little bit and lead a little bit about that. And obviously you've got Ryan Newman as well, probably on the outside looking in with some guys coming in and the musical chairs going. So, for me, leaning on my faith and knowing that if the Lord wants me here, I race on Sundays, then I'll continue to be racing. And if not, then I'll figure something else out to do. I'm not really tied to it, but I'm in a pretty good situation here where I'm at, and I'm happy about it.
In your past experiences, was there anything when you look back that where you did something to kind of even stand out more? I mean, obviously your resume is on display in one sense on the racetrack every week by what you do. But if there was one case in, one team in the past where you really, other than obviously the letter to Rick, were there other things like that you tried to do to kind of make yourself stand out a little bit more?
I mean, unfortunately, where we're at as a sport in its entirety is the only thing that makes you stand out is how much sponsorship you bring with you. I mean, that's really and truly, you can write all the letters you want to, and you can have all the good runs and win all the poles and have all the, wins on your belt. And if you don't have good partners that continue to back you and keep growing their investment in the sport as much as, my brand each and every year, then you're going to be on the bottom of anybody's list in terms of drivers. So that's just where we're at as a sport. And luckily I've had some great ones in Schluter Systems, who's on the car this weekend at Talladega. Built Bar continues to up their investment in the sport, and as well as myself. So to have brands continue to see the value in what they can build a program with NASCAR being the centerpiece is really important. And, I think that it says a lot to really come in here with no sponsorship, and then 3 or 4 years later, have over 7 figures that are tied to me, and we continue to build. And, I'm certainly very lucky because a lot of people don't get those opportunities.
And one other thing I ask you is, as you noted earlier, is that you feel like you guys are getting better and making progress, but I'm curious, in most years at this point in the season, teams would be, trying to finish out the year strong or trying to build toward next year with the car, with this car going away. What are things that you guys are doing to try to improve? Because if you get better in this car, in a couple of months, it doesn't matter. So how do you use, obviously beyond getting the best results you can get each week, what are you looking forward to next year? How are you trying to build to next year at this point?
Yeah. So, I think in our particular case, if CGR has an extra car that's not going to be in the rotation throughout the course of the year, if it's a short track car at Martinsville or something that, they don't have a need for, we'll send Letard over there and beg, borrow, and try to steal it over here to get a good short track piece and possibly get an A motor. If we go somewhere that we feel like Martinsville or, towards the end of the year, Phoenix, maybe that we can, have a strong run, then we'll certainly look into doing that. But to your point, yeah, it's like if you get better, if you find some areas for improvement here, either you're wasting a little bit of money for buying some stuff, being that we know generally what position we're going to finish in points, and not work on next year's stuff. So, I mean, we've got a couple of people working on our next gen stuff here for that test after the Roval. It's going to be tough we're a little bit behind with that car, but I'm sure guys will hammer on it and get it done this next week and get it ready to go. It'll be just hopefully that thing goes, stops, and turns like it's supposed to. We're not going to try to set any land speed records here at the Roval and just kind of get an understanding of it. So, I think that we have opportunities to run well a couple places at the end of the year. And it's just really and truly how much, what kind of cars we have in rotation or what CGR has in rotation. They can kind of shuffle to us and give us, maybe their latest and greatest specs so we can make, one good run at it towards the end of the year.
Thank you.
Okay, our next question is going to come from Pat DeCola. Go ahead, Pat.
I don't hear you. You're mute. Yeah.
Pat, can you hear us? Do you
I think
want
his mustache is getting in the way.
Pat, if you need to shoot me your question, I can try to just read it off if that's helpful. While we wait for Pat, we'll go to Dustin Albino. Go ahead, Dustin.
Hey, Corey, how are you?
Good, dog.
Hey, so you've obviously got, good results on super speedways, but never really ran in the front pack until this, Daytona a couple weeks ago. How valuable was that for you?
I was drinking from a fire hose. It's real different being, an arm's distance from the pack, and you can kind of watch what guys do, from a distance. You can kind of watch what Joey does to get himself from 10th in line to the lead. But until you are in there and you feel the energy of the pack and see what he does with any particular run, you don't really know the timing of it. So for me to understand the timing and the runs and the restarts were big for me. And then also what to do or what not to do, coming down for 2 to go or 1 to go. I probably would have done some things different at Daytona had I been in that position before. But, I don't know if I look back, I would have done anything different besides use that run into 3 coming to the white. But I knew I didn't have any friends up there. I was around a lot of Fords with not many Chevys to help. So I was probably a sit and duck regardless. But, just being in those positions I think we can try to put ourselves in position to this coming weekend as well, being that we have nothing to lose. So go up there throughout the course of the day and try to learn the runs and actually, earn some respect from the guys who race up there consistently when they see the 7 car, which they generally don't see up there often. If we continue to run up front, we probably can gain a little more respect.
Well, thanks, Corey.
Thanks, Dustin.
Okay, our next question is going to be back to Pat DeCola. Go ahead, Pat.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, there we go. All right. Just another question about the kickball tournament. Junior was kind of on the fence, right? Did he wind up committing?
He did not commit. I'm not sure why. He said he never played kickball before. Maybe he got a little scared. I don't know. I'm not going to.
Did he used to play soccer?
I told him it was like soccer mixed with baseball. So yeah. I don't know. I don't know if, I'm not going to assume our good buddy Steve Letarte is going to make it out. So at least we have a little bit of NBC presence out there. But I do hate the June Bug's not going to be able to come have some fun with us.
There you go. Another question about that. I know this has been such a big importance for you for close to 2 years now. Is it surreal that it's finally here? And tell me more about the cause, I guess. Yeah.
So it is crazy that it's next week, because when we finally nailed this thing down in March, it'd be like, oh man, this thing's like half a year away. We'll have plenty of time to get this thing together. And now it's a week before and we're thrashing just like anything else. I've had this idea of a kickball tournament for years now, just from the article that Andrea wrote in the Observer about how it played with Cliff Daniels on a kickball team in Huntersville for a couple of years, and just how much fun it is, and it's lighthearted, but it is somewhat competitive. And everybody does a golf tournament, right? So I wanted to do something a little bit different. Then I got the idea from Cam Newton when he had Kick It for Kids there in downtown Charlotte, but it was just the Panthers players and some couple people bouncing around. So to be able to get a bunch of teams to raise that much more money for the Kannapolis YMCA, as well as Samaritan's Feet, who has pretty much been my charity, not my charity, one I use my platform to help promote, because if I were to build one, it would be exactly what they do, to provide shoes to children and people worldwide. So it's going to raise over 6 figures. I don't really know what the final number is going to be. I was looking somewhere around 150 grand. So hopefully people keep showing up and buying tickets and supporting the cause.
Thanks.
All right. Any final questions for Corey before we go? All right. That looks to be all the questions. Corey, thank you for your time, and we wish you the best of luck next week in the kickball tournament.
Yeah, appreciate that, guys.
Speaking in Talladega too. I should add that.
Well,
you will be racing Talladega.
I'll need luck next Wednesday. So hopefully all y'all get to come out and enjoy it. Bob, I hope you're warming up your hamstring, buddy, because I don't want you to pull anything out there.
Bye, Corey. Thank you.